All right, Maples, moving on to chapter 6. It's called Annie, Roberto. Jack raced down the steep stadium steps, trying to get ahead of the crowd. But by the time he reached the middle section, he had to slow down. The aisle was packed with people buying sodas and flags, soccer caps from vendors. Jack couldn't get past the human traffic jam. He kept looking at his watch as he waited for the steps to clear. After almost 5 minutes, he squeezed through a gap in the crowd. 826, 826, he repeated as he struggled to get down the section near the playing field. Finally, Jack reached the last row of Section A. Annie! Roberto! He whispered. He looked down the steep rows of seats. All the wide-brimmed hats made it impossible to see. Annie! Roberto! Annie! Roberto! There was no sign of them anywhere. Jack hadn't expected all of the hats, or all the people milling around, standing, stretching, talking to neighbors, coming and going. Jack looked at his watch again. There were 5 minutes left until the end of halftime. Stadium officials were telling everybody to return to their seats. Take your seats. Halftime's almost over. Take your seats. Jack didn't know what to do. Suddenly he was caught in another traffic snarl as people started climbing back up to the higher tiers. Keep moving, an usher shouted at everyone. Keep moving. A huge roar came from the crowd. The players were taking their positions again. Kickoff. The second half of the game began. The Brazilian and Italian soccer stars were running in all directions, even peering through the crowd. Jack loved watching them up close. Suddenly, an usher was by his side. Where's your ticket? The man asked. Now's my chance, thought Jack. He showed his ticket. Please help me. I'm looking for 826, he said. My sister. 826? That's not your seat. Your seat's at the top, the stadium official said. Please go there now. But, started Jack. There's no time, barked the frazzled man. The game has started again. Go back to your seat. Jack did as the official said. Annie won't know why I didn't show up, he thought as he climbed the steep steps. She'll be really worried. He kept peering back down at the first row of Section A, looking for Annie and Roberto. Finally, Jack arrived back at the top of the stadium. He felt frustrated and anxious as he sat down in his seat. Not only would he never get a good look at the World Cup players now, but how was he going to find Annie again? Jack wished he had a cell phone, but he knew cell phones hadn't been invented yet. How did people ever find each other in the 1970s, he wondered. As the fans of the Brazilian team kept whistling and cheering, Jack caught more snatches of the radio commentary. Brazil attacks. Gerson scores long, low shot. Brazil keeps it tackling, passing, dribbling. Jack barely listened to the game anymore. He was too worried about what to do when it was over. If the stadium was hectic at halftime, it'll be insane when the championship game ends, he thought. He had Merlin's magic mist in his backpack. Should he use it now, he wondered? What great talent would help him find Annie? What great talent would help them accomplish their mission? Pele follows with a hard shot. The radio commentator's voice crackled. Here comes Alberto. As the game went on, Jack couldn't stop worrying about finding Annie. She must be worried about finding me too, he thought. Knowing her, she might have tried to get help from the usher or stadium guards. Maybe she talked to the police. Jack looked up and down the aisles for any officials who might be searching for him. 4 minutes left, the announcer finally yelled. Someone passes to Pele. Now, Jaronizo has it. Brazil drives the ball and scores. As soon as it's over, I'll find seat 826, Jack thought. I'll keep looking as long as I have to. Jack just hoped Annie would wait at her seat. He hoped she had discovered the secret of greatness during the game. He hoped Roberto would stick around and take them back to the U.S. Embassy. Jack's thoughts were interrupted by a huge roar from the crowd. Final score, 4-1. The beautiful team has won. Champions of the world. Best World Cup of all time. All the spectators around Jack were screaming and jumping up and down, hugging each other. As Jack squeezed past the people in his rows, the sportscaster shouted from the radio, spectators are pushing past police and news reporters. Mobs are rushing onto the field. They're tearing off the players' shirts, their shoes. The fans have gone wild. Jack hoped that Annie wouldn't get impatient in all the chaos and leave her seat to look for him. They'd never find each other if they were both moving around. Pele's team members have hoisted him onto their shoulders. Celebrations will go on for days. The players will be honored at a giant banquet tonight in Mexico City. Excuse me, Jack mumbled as he tried to move past people in his row. He made his way through the crowd of celebrating fans and started down the steep stairs. He was bumped and pushed by people spilling from the stands. He moved as quickly as he could so he wouldn't get trampled. Finally, Jack reached the lower section of seats. As he looked around, he was accidentally knocked over by rowdy teenagers dancing in the aisle, screaming and waving flags. He scrambled back to his feet and jumped onto the stadium bench. Finally, Jack saw them, Annie and Roberto. They were only a few rows in front of him. They were two standing on a bench, but they were facing the field, pumping their arms in the air and shouting and cheering along with the crowd. Jack was flooded with relief. But then he felt angry. What the heck, he thought. Annie wasn't searching for him at all. She didn't seem to be a bit worried. She looked like she was having a great time. Annie, Jack yelled. He hurried down to her. Annie! When Annie and Roberto turned and saw Jack, they waved happily. Oh, Jack, I'm so glad to see you, Annie shouted. We waited for you, but when you didn't come, we figured your seat must have been okay. I hope it was. Well, actually, Jack shouted. Thanks so much for letting me keep my seat for the whole game, Annie shouted. Roberto and I had the best time. The game was incredible. Yes, Jack shouted. Roberto, I had the best time of my whole life, but I was worried about you. I hope your seat in the sky was good. Jack took a deep breath, and then for the second time that day, he chose to do the right thing. Yeah, sure, my seat was good, he said, it with a sigh. It was fine, totally fine. Moving on to Chapter 7, it's called Bye Pele. I'm so glad, shouted Annie. Come and squeeze in here with us to watch. Everyone has gone crazy. Jack climbed up onto the bench and stood between Annie and Roberto as they watched the happy celebration on the field. The president of Mexico presented a giant trophy to Brazil, and Carlos Alberto, the captain of the team, lifted it high above his head. Yay, Brazil, shouted Roberto. Yay, Pele. Did the ring of truth ever glow? Jack asked. Annie, when you were watching Pele up close, did you learn a secret of greatness from him? No, not yet, Annie said. Yay, Pele! Not yet, said Jack. Then when? Don't worry, said Annie. We still have time. She pulled the ring off her finger. Here, you can wear it again. Jack slipped the ring back onto his finger. But what's the use, he thought. We lost our big chance. How can we ever get close to Pele now? Followed by hundreds of photographers and TV cameras, the beautiful team was marching around the field. Confetti and streamers floated down from the stands. Firecrackers were whistling and popping over the stadium. Flag bearers waved huge green and yellow and blue Brazilian flags. A band was playing. Annie and Roberto clapped in rhythm to the music, trying to hide both his worry and his disappointment. Jack clapped with them. They're leaving now, said Roberto. Police were leading Pele and all the other Brazilian players off the crazy crowded field. Hold on, Maple friends. I gotta help Parker for a second. You know how to type it in, right?
Wait, what's the letters?
A-F-V. Oh, it's right there. You don't even have to type anything in. TV cameras, reporters, and a mob of fans followed the World Cup champions. We should follow the team too. Annie said to Jack. Want to? We have to, Jack said sharply. We still have a mission to accomplish, remember? Come with us, Roberto, said Annie. Let's follow the team, pronto. They climbed down from the bench and started running across the huge green soccer field. The parade of fans and players were leaving by the farthest exit. We'll catch up to them outside of the stadium, said Roberto, running alongside Jack and Annie. If I could even get 20 feet from Pele, I'd be happy forever. Me too, said Annie. Jack and I have a question for him. No kidding, thought Jack. Jack, Annie, and Roberto hurried through the exit, leaving Aztec Stadium and heading into the parking lot. Over there, they're getting on a bus, said Roberto. Not far away, fans and media were swarming around a bus. Photographers were snapping pictures, one after another. Flash bulbs blazing. TV reporters were shouting questions at the team. Supporters were cheering and waving flags. Hurry, cried Jack. They all ran faster, but before they could get to the bus, it pulled away from the crowd. Police pushed fans out of the path so it could leave. Goodbye, said Annie. Goodbye, Pele, Roberto yelled. Jack, Annie, and Roberto watched the bus move out of the giant parking lot of Aztec Stadium. Well, there goes our chance to accomplish our mission, Jack thought dismally. There will be no reason to journey to Camelot now. It'll be the first time we've ever failed. Don't worry, Annie said to him as if she'd read his mind. I'll bet this team headed to the city. Let's go back there and look for them. Okay, I guess that might work, said Jack, trying to not give up hope. I heard on the radio they were all going to a banquet in Mexico City tonight. Cool, said Annie. Someone's bound to know where that banquet is. Then maybe we can use our magic mist to get into the party. What? Like make a wish to the greatest party crashers in the world, said Jack. Annie laughed. Whatever it takes, she said. She turned to Roberto and asked, Roberto, can you help us get back into the city? Of course, I owe you everything, he said. Not really, said Jack. Everyone deserves a good birthday. Thank you, Jack, said Roberto with a big grin. Come with me. Jack and Annie followed Roberto away from the giant concrete building through the crowded parking lot and toward the tram line. Whoa, said Annie. Thousands of people were waiting to board the trams. We'll have to wait many hours to get on one, said Roberto. Is there another station nearby? Jack asked. Yes, but... What do you think we should do? Annie asked. I have an idea, said Roberto. My great aunt lives in a neighborhood north of here. Near her house, there's a bus stop. Want to give it a try? Sure, said Jack. We don't have another choice, he and Annie followed Roberto away from the tram station. Clouds had moved back in. A soft rain fell as they walked along a road crowded with cars leaving the stadium. Horns were blaring and drivers were shouting at each other. This way, said Roberto, and he led Jack and Annie away from the busy road into a rundown neighborhood. They passed St. Anthony's Church, a junk store, a laundromat, and a beauty shop. I have 4 pages left. No. Then Roberto led them down a dirt path between rows of stucco houses. In the light rains, families sat on the front porches. Several were listening to a portable radio. The announcer was repeating the news about the World Cup finals. At the end of the street was a vacant lot filled with kids. When Jack, Annie, and Roberto drew closer, they saw about 20 boys and girls of all ages running around barefoot, covered with mud. The kids were playing soccer. The goal lines had been marked off with tattered nets. A grown-up on the sideline was acting as a referee. He blew a whistle and yelled, "Halftime!" All the kids stopped running. Several players walked away from the field as the others gathered in small groups to talk. "Hey, Roberto," another boy waved. "Hey, Miguel," Roberto waved back. "What are you doing here?" shouted Miguel. Here's the picture of the kids, Jack, Annie, and Roberto, and the ones that were playing soccer. "I'm taking my friends back to the city," Roberto answered. "We're going to catch the bus." "Hey, Roberto," another kid yelled. "Hey, Diego, did you hear Brazil just won?" called Diego. "Yay!" Roberto pumped the air with his fist. "Pele the Great." Then he turned to Jack and Annie. "I played ball with these kids once when I was visiting my aunt. If they could come over, please do not tell them we just saw the World Cup final. It would make them sad that they could not afford to go." "Okay, we won't," said Annie. Jack nodded. Again, he was impressed by Roberto's kindness. The boys seemed to care about everyone's feelings. "Roberto, can your friends play soccer?" Miguel yelled. "Our team just lost some players for the second half." Before Roberto could answer, another boy jumped in. "No, Miguel. No, not Roberto. Remember that time he played? He was the worst player ever." "Yeah, Miguel. Remember?" yelled a tall girl. "He made us lose big time." "I didn't ask Roberto to play, Carla," Miguel said. "I asked if his 2 friends could play. We lost our 3 forwards, but we can play with 2. Jack glanced at Roberto. The boy's smile was gone, and he stared at the ground. "No way," Annie said to Jack, gritting her teeth. "Not in a million years." "Right? Not even if we didn't have a mission and were the best players in the world," said Jack. "Come on, Roberto. Let's get out of here." "Wait." Like one. Wait a minute," said Annie. Then she turned back to the kids and yelled, "Yes, Miguel, we can play." "Are you crazy, Jack?" asked her. "We'll play on your team," Annie yelled again to Miguel, "but only if you'll let Roberto play too." "All three of us want to be forwards." Roberto shook his head. "No, not me. They don't want me." "I'm not that great either," said Jack. "Annie, what's wrong with you?" "What's wrong with me? Nothing." Annie reached into Jack's backpack and took out the small bottle of Merlin's magic mist. "In fact, everything's about to be great for all three of us." End of chapter 7.